morning, everybody. We are on a shrimp boat here in Leeville. It is so beautiful here along the coast, and I have to say this is my first trip to Leeville. It will not be my last. But the big thing that attracted me to Leeville is that it is sinking due to coastal erosion. And while we've heard a lot about coastal erosion, there are not enough people fighting for it. We have graves, 100 people who have died. 98 of them are now in the ocean. No one's fought for it except one woman, and you'll meet it coming up on this morning show. Also on this morning show, Louisiana shrimp. There is nothing quite like it. But how has the industry bounced back from the BP oil spill? We'll take a look. And Louisiana oysters, they're about to be better than ever, especially in the summer. We'll show you why. Fishing for reds with Lieutenant Governor Jay Darden and tackling the problem of coastal erosion.
Now we're shrimping? Yeah, shrimping.
Captain Dean Plaisance has been shrimping these waters near Leeville since he was 5 years old. For 3 generations, it's how his family made their living.
First shrimping experience, I was around 5 years old, and my father drugged me on a boat with basically all our family. And we went shrimping and was seasick, didn't like it, but we had to do it.
Oh.
And from that day on, it's in my blood.
But making a living out here is now harder than ever.
It's a big difference. The price and the quantity of seafood, shrimp, is what it was 30, 40 years ago, the price-wise.
Captain Plaisance says imported shrimp is part of the problem.
90% of the seafood in the United States comes from imports. 10% is domestic shrimp, wild-caught shrimp from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas. Only 10%. 90% comes from imports. Well, imported shrimp is imported from overseas. You ever been overseas to see where they make a shrimp farm and what they feed these little bitty animals? Human waste. That's what's fed to imported shrimp overseas. Then they process it into a chemical that is against USDA on this side, the environmental.
He warns us not to be fooled by packaging either. Processed in Louisiana on a label does not mean caught in Louisiana.
See, imported shrimp is anything coming from overseas is in kilos. So to sell it in the United States, it has to be switched over to pounds. So they strip open an imported bag and put it in Louisiana, in the United States, weight per pound, bag or package, and it's labeled processed in the United States.
And all they've done is change the bag.
That's all they did was change the bag.
But what's even more troubling to him is the damaging effects from the BP oil spill. When the disaster started, Captain Plaisance and other shrimpers were ordered to shut down. A month into the spill, he was hired to help.
I've seen the worst into the spill itself. We had our 2 hands in it all the time for 120-something days.
How'd you feel?
At the beginning, I felt great to go and do something for our community by cleaning it up. But at the end, politics got involved, and it was a cover-up. And they released us because we saw too much. So once they released us and we weren't in the game plan no more, somebody else took over because of kickbacks.
He still feels kicked around by BP.
The Gulf oil spill, basically it's a big cover-up. Nobody wants to come up to the plate and say, well, we're gonna clean up, because they'd have to spend billions of more dollars trying to clean up this Gulf oil spill. And hurting the industry, it hurts anything. Oil, you got to understand, crude oil coming from the ground is untreated, and there's nothing that could survive in there. So reproduction of shrimp, fish, or any kind of wildlife in the seafood business, it had a bad toll against it, because any kind of chemical you're going to use, like they spray thousands of gallons of dispersant, it kills the offsprings in 5 to 10 years to come.
He sees evidence of the damage now often.
Yeah, already seen results right now.
What's happened to your catch?
Basically, in July, you see a lot of adult shrimp coming in from the Gulf to lay eggs, and the last 2 years I haven't seen them. Very little. A lot of reports are saying, with wildlife and fishery, saying, oh, the shrimping is good, it was a good year, but look at the reports on how many pounds were brought in 5 years ago, and how many pounds are brought in just this last year. And I guarantee there's a big difference.
What he can't see is even more frightening.
Now, what they're gonna do about the oil that's left on the Gulf floor? No telling. You know, what you can't see, nobody sees, you don't say that.
Yeah.
And that's what BP did. That was a big cover-up. You know, and nobody wants to admit it, that's what they did. Cover up a major oil spill.
Did you know they paid some people some damages? Did you get any of that money?
We got paid a little bit in the beginning, but now they're dragging their feet. And the only ones making money right now is the lawyers.
Yeah.
Just by fighting back and forth, at the same time we're starving.
Yeah.
And no money is being dished out. Anybody can say that they get paid. Some people got paid. But let's give a few dollars to the ones that are making a bunch of racket on the market and hush them up. And that's what you call hush-hush money.
It wasn't enough money to keep Captain Plaisance hushed. He says he got $25,000 from BP, but in the last 2 years, he's lost nearly $150,000.
Because BP has billions of dollars. When you look at their quarterly report of how much they've made, well, how about us poor people that they came and damaged our livelihood? I can't talk to BP. I wish I could. You know, the man in charge, where is he?
While Captain Plaisance has 100 more questions than answers, I asked him if he was ready to just quit shrimping altogether, do something different. He says he just can't.
I love it. I love to be on the water every day. I love it. I love to see the different seafood, the different wildlife you catch. I love to see my customers come by and buy shrimp with me because they want fresh product.
Coming up, we are fishing for reds with Lieutenant Governor Jay Darden and tackling the problem of coastal erosion right after this.
I'm on my third Tahoe.
And I'm on my fourth Chevy Silverado pickup.
Hey, you know I've had 4 Camaros, 5 Corvettes. Got them all from Jerry Lane.
We're proud to be a Jerry Lane family.
All lanes lead to, you can count on Jerry Lane.
At Raising Cane's, we believe in one love. Quality chicken finger meals. But creating one love is no simple task. Everything has to be served hot and fresh. Not just hot. We use only 100% premium chicken tenderloins. guaranteeing a 0% chance of leftovers. We insist on the best ingredients for our fries, like potatoes. Well, we can keep talking quality, or you can just eat it. Raising Cane's, one love.
Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. The best fishing in the world is right here in Louisiana, but our coastline is creeping in. As we enjoy sportsman's paradise, I asked Lieutenant Governor Jay Darden, can we combat coastal erosion? Woo! Who caught the first fish of the day?
Well, we know the fish are out there somewhere.
Lieutenant Governor Darden says this is one of Louisiana's greatest natural resources.
This is God's gift to Louisiana because you don't have this coastal marsh in the other states. You know, they've got pretty beaches in Florida and Alabama. We have Grand Isle, but we don't have the white sandy beaches you see in those states, but they don't have the fishing inland that we do in the coastal marsh. And that's where we are, where saltwater meets freshwater, and it just makes for the greatest fishing around.
We get all of this thanks to the mighty Mississippi River.
And it empties into the Gulf in through only one state, Louisiana. So the Mississippi is what deposits, for 7,000 years, has deposited all this sediment along its banks. I got something.
All right.
I may have the stump.
Oh. But we're losing this fertile marshland minute by minute.
It is a huge problem, and we're losing, as you know, dramatic portions of land every hour. And there is all right. I wonder if you can pick my pocket there. There is a master plan that's in place now, but it's a huge price tag attached to the plan that would create diversions from the Mississippi, and also has some component of dredging where you're making the channels wider.
What was that?
We're going to get some money from the federal government as a result of the BP spill.
Yeah.
To address it, but it's a multi-billion-dollar issue, and the truth is we're not going to be able to save every bit of the Louisiana coast. It's just too much of it is gone. But we have an obligation to not only our state but to America to try and save America's wetland. It affects people in Chicago as much as it does people here in Shack Bay and other parts of South Louisiana because of what Louisiana provides to the nation by way of oil and gas and seafood and ports that are responsible for delivering a lot of America's products and goods overseas. Mm-hmm. And so if we don't have this coastal marsh, we're not going to be able to continue to do this. And if you look at the projections of land loss going to 2050, it's profound to look at a map of Louisiana and see how much will be lost if we don't start trying to correct the problem. And it has gone uncorrected for generations now, but we're really at a flashpoint, a crisis point of having to do something about it.
It's taken years of heightened awareness, constitutional amendments, and promises of billions of hard-fought-after dollars.
It's money. It's all about money, and we are going to get some money from as a result of the BP spill and the fines that are going to be eventually imposed, and that's going to help get us started. But it's almost so huge of a problem that it's been easy to push it down the road. But we can't keep pushing it down the road, or there's not going to be a road any longer.
While the BP oil spill money aids coastal erosion and tourism, Lieutenant Governor Darden admits it's far from perfect.
When we needed some money for tourism right after the spill, they did step up in that regard, and we were able to mitigate some of the problems. But a lot of individuals are not as lucky, and the compensation they're getting is not doing what they need to have done.
Despite the huge hit the BP oil spill had on Louisiana tourism and commerce, Darden says the last 2 years have been record breakers.
Has Louisiana balanced, in your opinion, the oil and gas with the treasure of Mother Nature?
Yeah, I think we have. I gave a talk last year, what I call it Louisiana where oil and water do mix, and it's a tenuous mix to some extent, with a lot of the discussions that are taking place about what it takes to repair the coastline and rebuild the coastline. But I think we have, and it's a cultural thing. You know, where else do you see these? You have the huge oil and gas industry right off this coast here. You can look out there and see an oil platform, and huge amounts of people who leave from Louisiana every day to work in the oil patch, and yet you also have hundreds and thousands of people who come here to fish, and it's one of the things that makes Louisiana unique. If you think about going down River Road south toward New Orleans, you have petrochemical plants side by side with magnificent plantation homes. This great juxtaposition of the old and the new, where you see them one beside the other, and it's very normal to us. It's kind of bizarre, I think, for people who look and they go see a plantation home and they see all this big, huge petrochemical plant right next door. It's kind of weird, but that's what Louisiana is. It's a great blend of old and new.
Still to come on Weekends with Whitney. The life and the legacy of Leeville is incredible, but the fact that it's sinking and no one really cares is really abominable. Well, we're going to examine why that's happened, who's fighting for it, and what's going to happen to Leeville next after this.
I'm driving all day long, so I need a car that I can rely on in a dealership I can trust.
And that's Jerry Lane.
It's always been Jerry.
Their customer service is outstanding.
Get in the lane, get in the lane, get in the lane.
Jerry Lane keeps me and my family rolling.
Always lead to. You can count on Jerry Lane.
Give the gift of fine dining this holiday season. Wayne Stabler Companies is offering one card for four. Le Creole, The Little Village, Stab's Steak and Seafood. 4 sizzling restaurants, one card.
Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. The once thriving fishing town of Leeville is sinking, literally. 100 years ago, it was 11 miles inland. Today, 2/3 of it is underwater. Some of the richest, most prolific fishing in Louisiana is inshore, right here among the marshes. To get here, we launched in Leeville, but Leeville is sinking. Now, only 1/3 of the town is left. Janet Rodas is one of the few people fighting to keep what's left above water.
100 years ago, this was all vast farmlands, rice fields, cotton fields, orchards. There's not much of Leeville left.
Why are people not up in arms?
I can't answer that, and it's very odd to me because Leeville has such a great value that a lot of people do not realize. They have one of the few ice houses in the area. The only other ice house that supplies ice to the trawlers and the seafood industry is the closest one is to the south in Grand Isle, and then to the north, Berg. So if Leeville's Griffin Ice House was not here, you wouldn't have a seafood industry here. So that's one major component. Then, of course, the real value of Leeville with the oil industry, as you can see the big supply boat behind you, because we're adjacent to Port Fourchon, who supplies close to 35% of the nation's energy supply. It's just adjacent next door to Leeville, so there's a lot of oil field support here.
Even its cemeteries are watery graves. This is all that's left of LaForte Cemetery. 2 caskets. Hundreds of others right here have already been swallowed up by the sea, and few even noticed or cared.
And if you look over here, we showed you before, that's the LaForte Cemetery that 100 years ago was, this canal was only 200 feet wide, and that cemetery was hundreds of graves with oak trees and moss hanging from them. In just that short amount of time, you see there's only a few little tombs that now exist, and this is the most photographed piece of property in Leeville. We have National Geographic, we have photographers from all over the country that come here, and everyone wants to take a picture of that sad situation over there, but yet nothing's being done, and we're fighting for that too.
A bulkhead used to protect the cemetery, but barges used this point to pivot. That eventually wiped out the bulkhead, and no one, not even families of those buried here, fought to fix it. So 3 years ago, Janet started Launch Leeville, a nonprofit dedicated to saving this once thriving fishing town every way it can.
You know, the thing that Leeville's most famous for is its recreational fishing, and the sales tax that's brought into this community every year from the recreational fishermen is astronomical. And so it's really a shame there's really never been an investment to restore Leeville, but we've been working really hard the past 2 years to change that.
To help change it, she reached out to Lieutenant Governor Jay Darden, who agreed something should be done to help save it.
We named Leeville a cultural district last year in an effort to try and call more attention to it and make it a place that people would want to come and realize it's still it's still a viable place.
Leeville needs that now more than ever because of the new bridge to Grand
Isle. Much more
Isle.
of a mecca for people who are fishing, and a lot more camps here, and that's just not happening now because the bridge just takes you to Fouchon and to Grand Isle.
There's even grant money to help, but no one until Janet ever went after it.
No, unfortunately not. There is what's called a federal Clipper program that's been in place over 20 years, and unfortunately no one's ever nominated a coastal restoration project for Leeville, and anyone in the general public can do so. So last year I went before the Clipper board and their task force, and I'm proud to say that we're pretty certain that we're going to get our first coastal erosion project in Leeville, creating approximately 450 acres of marsh on the east side of here where we just went through, where it's vast open water. And so 450 acres of marsh creation will be substantial to bring some protection on the east side of Leeville. If you'll look under here at the footings of the bridge, you see the strong currents where the dolphins hang out. If these two intersections ever open up, you can just forget Leeville. There'll be no putting it back together. And so that's why I'm begging and pleading right now for some sort of project to be done to reinforce these intersections.
If you'd like to help save this sinking town, go to Facebook and search Launch Leeville. And coming up next, building a better oyster, how groundbreaking science here on the coast is fattening them up. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. The once thriving fishing town of Leeville is sinking, literally. 100 years ago, it was 11 miles inland. Today, 2/3 of it is underwater. And coming up as Weekends with Whitney continues, for all of you oyster lovers, they're about to get bigger and better. We'll show you how next.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. You may never have to eat another small, scrawny, skinny oyster in the summer again. That's all due to groundbreaking science in Grand Isle. State-of-the-art oyster harvesting is underway right here at the Louisiana Gulf Coast Research and Demonstration Farm. Heading up that effort is Dr. John Supan, director of LSU's Sea Grant Oyster Lab.
This farm serves two roles: research and development, actually three, and demonstration. So out here we have thousands of oysters that are part of our research program in developing what we call broodstock lines. So we raise male and female oysters, and we can cross them and create new lines that outperform what traditionally grows in the wild.
What this means for you is plump, fat oysters, not just in the colder months, but throughout the summer when oysters shrink. So I got in the water for a first-hand look at what Dr. Supan and his team call their long line system.
That what you see in front of you is a long line system that's typically used in Australia. We were one of the first to deploy that here.
It holds the oyster in mesh bags up off of the bottom, and that protects them and helps them grow twice as fast.
I mentioned to you earlier, one of the unique features of this technology is that you can raise and lower the long lines.
Yeah.
And what we call riser clips.
Oh, nice.
It's just a matter of raising this up. You know, being able to access to air dry the oysters. You can see some of these over there are already air drying because of the tides that's already fallen.
How many times a day will you have to do this?
Oh, not times a day, usually once a week.
Okay.
To keep the oysters clean from fouling, from barnacles and wild algae and wild oysters growing on them, they need to be air dried about once a week. That radically reduces the labor, which makes it commercially feasible. Other than that, you'd have to bring them in and pressure wash them regularly.
All of that helps keep barnacles off these oysters and predators from eating them.
Black drum, and there's a snail that eats a hole in an oyster and can kill it. And the Frenchmen call them bigonos. It's also called an oyster drill, and it's a drill because it drills a hole. It has the ability to drill a hole into an oyster shell and eat it from the inside. So, and they can become prolific here because of the high salinity waters. Black drum is a fish. It has plates in its throat, and they can suck up an oyster and crush it and eat
the whole thing?
The whole
like
thing.
The shell?
Like the whole thing.
Whoa.
And they're also a prolific predator particularly on private leases after they've transplanted seed oysters from the public grounds to their private leases. And because they're put back on the bottom in a loose manner, the black drum can suck them up and crush them in their throats and eat them. So we can have that kind of predation here as well. And there's crab predation. Blue crabs love eating very small oysters. So all this protects that from that.
These oysters are also part of a new breeding program. It flourishes here because of the Gulf of Mexico's warmer water temperatures than other places in the U.S. When oysters breed, they don't reproduce by knocking their shells together. Instead, their eggs and sperm meet up in the water.
We'll place oysters in a shallow tank, and we'll pump some bay water over them, filtered bay water over them, and they'll open and start to pump. You can see the shells open. And then we raise the temperature on them, maybe 5 degrees centigrade. And it doesn't, if they're ripe, it doesn't take long for them to start spawning. The males will put out a steady stream of sperm. It looks like white. The oystermen call them milky.
Oh, okay.
When the oysters are, quote, getting milky, that means they're ready to spawn, and typically that's in April and early May. So the male will start putting out a stream of sperm, and then the females will relax their muscle and open their shell wider than usual and clamp down, and the eggs will squirt out the front of the shell. And then they'll relax, and they do that. They clamp and squirt, clamp and squirt.
And because Dr. Supan can control oyster fertilization, he can now breed different genetically altered oysters and thereby create a superior oyster.
We have bred an oyster that has a certain set of chromosomes. Now what that does is that makes the oyster sexually sterile. It can't spawn. So it gets fat in the winter like all oysters do. But come summertime, they stay fat all summer long. So it's brand new, and it's now starting to be commercialized. Now,
should I be concerned about eating an oyster that has 3 chromosomes rather than 2?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
It's that whole safety thing. That's a genetic...
Are you concerned about seedless watermelons?
No.
Okay, well that's a product of breeding. This is just a product of breeding.
So the next delicious oyster you eat just might have originated from right here in the capable hands of Dr. Supan along our beautiful Louisiana coast. You know, sometimes it's just hard to say goodbye, and this morning is one of those. I don't know about you, but I could use 30 more minutes of this. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Thanks for starting it with us. Help Leeville if you can, and head to our website for much more information on all that's going on the coast. We're happy to share this with you, and happy that you shared your Sunday with us. Have a great day, everyone. We leave you with more beauty from all this. What has your attention? Oh, not. We're going shrimping. And there's a lot more out here than just shrimp, right? Like these little blowfish. So much fun. I can blow them up. Yeah, like that. And then all of a sudden it looks like baby birds. It looks like a bird, doesn't it? But that's funny. That's a blowfish. Hey, Kim. Hello? How are y'all? I'm fighting up for the winner.
You still got it, or are you trying to shake it?
I'm back with that. Big crowd. Oh, right. Oh, yay. We have good value over here. Yeah, I do, but hold on. I mean, I'm kind of in game with the little blowfishes, but there's one more. I'm still blowing. You know, I had a bad game like that one time. Hey, you did to me. Hey, buddy. That's the closest to this you're ever going to get. Is your buddy bit? Oh, we got another one? Look at that. It looks like a sparrow. Or a bird or something. Oh, okay. I know. I think you want it under 10. Let's go that. A little more. Come on. You can do it. Let's go. How about that? It's like a bird. Look at that. It looks like a bird.
Swing him over?
Oh, you got that. Come on.
Captain.
Yeah, what's this thing?
That's a cigar. That one? Yeah, it's called that.
What is that? Does he bite?
No, you don't bite.
You sure? Ooh, what's this? What? He looks like a snake. Looks like a snake. Just don't let him bite your finger. What's it?
They call it a cigar. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, that's called cheating. But I take them. I do want gloves. Well, no, it's not regular gloves. They're dollar gloves. It doesn't matter. I don't care. It's an urchin. Oh, there you go. The man of the day. Oh, there you go. I could have done that. Huh? Oh! Oh, he's strong. Yeah. Like he wants back. I don't blame him. It's hard to breathe out here, isn't it, buddy? I know. Ooh, that's a weird. He's got some teeth. Look at those teeth. You know, they told me he wouldn't bite. I see those teeth. And he moves like that. But I love to throw back in because they get so happy, right? Okay, ready? Ready? Let's go, Happy! Woo! Oh, should I cut it?
Yeah, that's good eating.
Oh, he wasn't big enough to eat.
He was big enough to eat.
Really? For who?
You cut the head off and the tail and you deep fry them.
Well,
You eat it like a cigar beef jerky.
Dude, that would have been maybe an appetizer for me.
I know.
All right.
Oh yeah, he got two bowls. That's a meal. It's a meal. Yeah.
All right. And just count me down. So I don't know how you're spending your Sunday, but my wish is that it will be just half as good as this is, because this is just my first experience out here with it's just incredible. There are very few words. We'll be back right after this.